Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee, October 14th, 2025 at 4:35 p.m. Start with roll call. Alder Galvin.
Here.
Alder Johnson.
Here.
Alder Hinkfist.
Here.
And myself are present. Entertain a motion approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to regular business number 1, informational only. Presentation from Resource X regarding priority-based budgeting for the city of Green Bay.
Do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, yep, we're all here, so.
Okay. Yeah, we just have Jesse and Chris from Resource X who can give an overview of priority-based budgeting, talk about some of the data we have for the system already for the city of Green Bay, and then talk about next steps for our staff. Thanks for being here, Chris and Jesse, virtually at least.
Absolutely. Can you hear us okay, everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
And should we jump right in?
Yep,
Yep.
that works for us.
Okay, well, thank you, members of the Finance Committee. My name is Chris Fabian. I'm presenting here with Jesse Muniz. We're with Resource X, and Resource X is now a company of Tyler Technologies. And we're thrilled to be able to present your progress thus far in the implementation of priority-based budgeting and where it will be headed next. So we have some progress to relay, along the way, some background in education, and some next steps ahead. Jesse, thank you very much. Well, we do have some slides to aid in our presentation, and we'll follow along slide by slide. If you present, go ahead to the next one, Jesse. I'm going to start with just revisiting the initial value proposition, setting the stage for why priority-based budgeting was of interest to the city of Green Bay and beyond. Jesse, if we can move to the next slide. Priority-based budgeting finds itself as the centerpiece, the budgeting engine of a nationwide trend called rethinking budgeting. The Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, if you've become familiar with GFOA, they are the professional association representing finance and budget leaders in the public sector, along with ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association for city administrators, city managers, chiefs of staff, and so on, have collaborated in this initiative, simply recognizing that while line item budgeting has been the bedrock of appropriation, this is the budgeting method that we all know so well for literally a century. Today's environment, the amount of change that we face, the residents' priorities, the need to always understand where funding is headed, where we find new funding when we need it. Today's environment calls for transformation in how we approach the budget and the allocation of resources. So rethinking budgeting and priority-based budgeting as the centerpiece is not only something of your interest level, but something that is now best practice and a nationwide initiative from these associations. Jesse, as you go to the next slide, the reason why priority-based budgeting allows us to embrace the future for those types of challenges that we face is because at the heart of priority-based budgeting is an understanding of where are we currently aligning our resources. Are we in alignment with the objectives that our community hopes that we will achieve in our strategic plan priorities? And where do we have opportunities to either free up and reallocate resources from within, as you see some of those core strategies? Where do we find sourcing opportunities, partnerships, efficiencies, appropriate service level trade-offs? And where can we find entrepreneurial, creative, modern, and appropriate ways to consider new revenue? Not solely tax increases, although that's always up for consideration, but breaking this binary thinking that we can only cut services or raise taxes if we need to achieve a sustainable, balanced budget. it turns out there are many different ways to approach this, and so these are among the core strategies through the analysis in priority-based budgeting that we open and surface for the city to explore. So thanks Jesse, as we move into what you actually did, I'm hoping that your mindset will be, how is our budget aligned? Where do we allocate resources as it pertains to programs that are highly mandated versus programs where perhaps you have more discretion, that are less mandated and open for consideration? Where do we have programs where our residents rely on us entirely versus those programs where reliance is lower? You see these categories I'm naming off on this particular screen capture. Jesse will get more into this in his presentation, but we have now identified your programs, the cost, the evaluation, sufficient to begin to explore your resource allocation by way of these categorizations. And this will lead to the types of blueprint, priority-based budgeting blueprint opportunities that we just described on the previous slide. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse, who has been your leader in the implementation, and have him walk through where you are. Jesse.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Jesse Muniz, Head of Customer Success with Pilot Technologies and the ResourceX team. I was the project lead in helping the staff develop this data, and so I'm just going to briefly touch on the journey we've taken so far and get into where we will be headed into here in the short term. So this slide here is just to kind of show you all the work that the staff has been putting into this project, and kudos to the staff for getting all this data created and put together. It does take a lot of work and review, so kudos to the staff for doing that. But we started off with the foundational piece of the line item budget, recognizing that that's never going to go away. We just want to look at things a little bit differently. So we started with that foundational line item budget. We developed program inventory, so we developed that comprehensive list of programs and services that are being offered by Green Bay. We then moved into program scoring, which I'll touch on a little bit more, but basically what we're doing is tagging programs, understanding why we're doing these services, and really trying to figure out just how well they align with the strategies outlined. And then we went into program costing, which we wanted to identify not only what we do and where it aligns, but just how much are we investing in these programs and services, right? So translating the line item budget into the cost of programs that we're providing. And then ideally with this data set that we've developed, we want to eventually take action, right? So we want to identify insights in terms of that blueprint that Chris mentioned of the free up or reallocating resources or generating new revenue. And we want to make this part of your normal budget development process, which when we come to asking for new things, changing things, we want to be able to utilize the data that we developed to help take that action. Let's see, so when it comes to program scoring, this is just a slide to show the strategies that the staff evaluated their programs against. And we've broken them down into two different categories, community strategies and governance strategies. We break those down because we want to recognize that some of the services, not some, but the services that we offer either lie in two categories. Either they're outward facing, external facing, direct services to the community, and then those services and programs that are more internal facing, your necessary needs to keep the government running. So we break those out into two distinct categories so that they can be evaluated properly. And those strategies you see here on the screen, we have our community strategies of the balanced and equitable community development, investing in public safety, and then the 21st century infrastructure. And then our governance strategies, we measure those governance type programs against organizational excellence and the employee recruitment and engagement. And I'll get into just how that all lays out here in a second. So this is just going to be some really high-level key takeaways from the data set so far that we developed, some things to outline throughout the process. So 385 programs and services were identified, which was a budget valued about $276 million. What we found is that there was 212 community type programs, so those programs that we measured against the community type strategies, And then there was 173 programs that were considered governance type programs. So again, those more internal type programs and services. What the data shows us so far, that 197 of the programs, or almost $225 million worth of the budget of the programs, are what we consider high impact. So they are more aligned and most aligned with your strategies. So you can see here on the graph, that dark purple and white purple are the programs that lie within that most aligned and more aligned quartiles. So that we kind of consider that high impact to what's being done today, which is about 81% of your total budget. So a really significant number in terms of what you're doing today. And then the last section there is 59 programs through the evaluation process were considered least aligned, which only amounted to about 5% of the budget as a whole. So really interesting data to see at a high level that we can see so far. And what that allows us to do is that once we've developed this data set, when we've identified programs and costs and scored them and evaluated them where they lie, we start to be able to categorize those into what kind of opportunities are out there for these types of programs. And we start to categorize them in order for us to kind of look at this blueprint again and say, what strategy do we want to take on? What do we look for sourcing opportunities or efficiencies or service levels? And so now that we have the data in a way and categorized, we can then identify, well, where do we want to go with this? And one way we can start to look at these things is what we put together what we call an impact matrix. As you can see there on the left-hand side, the blue bar is impact, going from lower impact at the bottom of the screen all the way up to higher impact. That impact is based on what I mentioned earlier, where those programs lie in terms of whether they're most aligned, more aligned with your strategies. At the bottom there of the graph, you see the cost, and so from starting with your left are your lower cost programs all the way up to your higher cost programs. So they kind of, as you can just imagine, low starts at the bottom corner. We got impact going up and cost going across in terms of high. And we can put these into some buckets. So we can see programs that are what we consider maybe high impact programs that are lower cost programs, and we can identify some strategies of what we can do with those types of programs. We can then see, for example, on the far right, lower quadrant, programs that are low impact. Maybe they're least aligned with the priorities that the strategies that you have, but maybe they cost a little bit more based on an evaluation. And so again, we can identify some strategies, what we can do with those. But this kind of gives us a different lens and a different view of how we can look at the programs and services that we're offering, and then allows us to identify, okay, so what can we do with this type of information? And one of the things that we've done to start off with is providing what we call an ROI report or an insight report, where we're taking every single program and we're running it through some machine learning and some AI tools to say, where can we find some examples and case studies of organizations who have taken the PBB framework and come up with some reallocation strategies and some revenue generating ideas. And this is just an example of some of the things that the department is going to review, but I just wanted to highlight what this looks like. And so for every program that's in your data that we've developed, we can look at, for every single program, we can look at cost saving solutions or revenue generating ideas. And so this is an example of a records management program, and it provides an example on a case study of a police department in California and how they were able to save some costs in their records management program. For every program also, we include, well, what is going to be to implement such a strategy, and so we've outlined in that case study what that organization did to implement the cost savings or a revenue strategy to identify there. We also will provide in the report what the potential savings or what the potential revenue generation could be with this, again, with the case study that is outlined in the report. And then again, this slide is just kind of telling us for every program that we developed, where they rank in terms of priorities. We put them into categories, and each category has its own kind of opportunity or theme in terms of what we're doing. So if you can see, I don't know how well you can see on the slide, but for say category programs that are under the 1 category, which are low impact, low cost, low mandate, low reliance, Some of the themes around that is to optimize low-impact services through partnerships and efficient resource reallocation. So for every program where they lie in this category, we have a theme that we suggest, here's how we can identify some strategies utilizing that PBB blueprint. With that, I'm going to pass it back over to Chris. We want to talk about some of the future developments that are really exciting that we have cooking. So Chris, I'm going to pass it off to you to kind of talk about this next section.
That sounds good. You can move to the next slide. So,
No, I'm just saying I emailed.
as Jesse just walked us through, the first kind of important use case for your priority-based budgeting data was having a sense for how do your resources align with your strategic plan goals, as well as those other evaluation criteria. And we use that priority-based budgeting data to then cross-reference and see, as Jesse mentioned, have there been other governments who have been able to achieve a blueprint-related cost savings idea that we have worked with or that we can verify? And similarly, are there any on the creative revenue side that follow the blueprint to help and assist departments as they are continually looking for ways to optimize resources? And so if insights are but one example, the tool set continues to evolve for how we use priority-based budgeting data. And the vision here is with this program-specific data and all the measurement that you spent so much time to put together, we can start to bring other analytics and insights to life. So Jesse, move to the next slide. For particular applications that represent where we're headed next with this, that is part of your work effort overall, but looking a little bit ahead to the future, are these which you see on the screen. I'll start with program benchmarking. So I think you all know what those words mean, program benchmarking relative to other jurisdictions. This has always been an interesting area to explore, but sometimes challenging to figure out who's truly apples to apples with Green Bay. Nobody is truly a perfect case study comparison. Nevertheless, because we have probably the world's largest database of program by program costs, it still becomes interesting to say, who else do we have in our database who's gone through priority-based budgeting, who has program information on records management in HR or accounts payable? And might it not hurt to at least see what is the range of costs on a per capita basis? What might we be able to do? So we will be running your data through a comparison to try to find organizations in your region of your order of magnitude and size, and bringing back to you programs in comparison relative to other jurisdictions, just so you have that signal and comparative analysis for your program cost benchmark against other jurisdictions. The second piece, Jesse mentioned the insights. A typical approach with the program insights, as your organization will likely go through, is to imagine a funnel, and at the top of the funnel are all of the insights that we've identified for cost saving and new revenue generation for each program. Departments tend to filter those down to say, what are the most practical, reasonably actionable insights that resonate of those that we have identified. And when we get down to those that seem like they might be a good fit to explore further, the insight implementation plan effort helps us to then translate, well, if Arcadia or Madison, Wisconsin did this particular cost savings innovation, what would it look like in Green Bay? We have tracked the steps of implementation, decision-making considerations, legal, HR, financial considerations as well, so we can hone in on actual implementation plans so you have them when and if you need to deploy those. Next slide, Jesse. Oh, sorry, that was Insight Predictor along with Insight Implementation Plans. So we can go to the final slide in the next steps here. The final area, as it pertains to just basic program efficiencies, over the course that we've been in business, we've taken every program in your program inventory and broken them down into key steps or business processes to implement. So you take pothole repair or records management or an inspection, there are certain aspects of each of those programs that represent what your staff actually do. They go out and do the inspection, they have some sort of level of code enforcement, they issue the inspection, there's a records management component of that. And when we take each and every sub-process and look across all of your programs, across all departments, what we're finding are those most interesting areas where you do have potential process overlap, not to immediately pass judgment that they're redundant, but to at least point or illuminate those areas where there's a potential for centralization. And so this will be another component of your analytics. Again, and all of this is stemming from the priority-based budgeting data you've already built. Now you're opening the doorway to these analytics and insights that we can begin to provide. So we're here now just getting into the most exciting part with insights and analytics. So look for these to come.
Yeah.
I'll turn it back to you.
And then with that, just kind of close out our presentation today, kind of the next steps in terms of what we'll be doing. We want to be continued support as we go through, as Green Bay goes through the budget development process. Again, we really want to help build that culture of priority alignment, transparency, and program data, right? So we're going to be continuously working with the team on that. As far as opportunities for resource reallocation and optimization, the plan is for the team, the departments to vet the ideas, as Chris mentioned, that we provided in those insights, and really identify which ones are feasible, actionable, which ones make sense for Green Bay, and then from there, mobilize an approach to go from insight to action, right? So like where we identify those insights that are feasible or could be done, what are the next steps to actually get that done through there? And so some of the ways that we do that is having workshops with departments to refine the insights, to kind of talk through what those strategies would be. But that's going to be kind of our step going forward, is now that the data is developed and we have some ideas out there, just helping support the team and the staff vet those and get those through some actionable plans. So with that being said, that's our presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open the floor to any questions for Chris and I.
Any questions from the elders?
One for staff.
Yeah.
Joe, what are our strategic priorities?
So, yeah, in 2021, we had a strategic plan, and we went off of those, we made some updates, and then we're gonna bring those to the council, I think at the next finance meeting too. So we've been working on creating databases and data sets, and then creating KPIs and measuring those. That's been kind of a journey, so we're gonna include that in a presentation at the next finance meeting.
So is that something you're going to be looking to council to authorize, amend? Or is this something that's being
We'll be looking
given
for
to us?
No, we'll be looking for feedback and input
Okay.
on it.
Okay, and I'm just, it's, of course, there's the launch of it, but I'm also thinking about how this operates as an ongoing thing,
Yep.
right? And if there's a strategic, most organizations that do a new strat plan, every 5 years or so.
Yep.
So I'm just curious if that's something that you would expect, or if it's tied to, like, existing plans, like a comp plan, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we try to tie it to everything. So it's been used for Resource X, and we're gonna bring it to the council for feedback and to move forward to, I guess, adopt.
Okay.
So, I'm thinking about what you had just said. You're developing the data. You already did a program inventory. The program scoring, I think you were really, Alder Johnson, when you were talking about priorities and strategy, who makes that determination? Is that done at the staff level?
So we took what we already had for this system so far, and now we're going to be bringing to the council to use. And there are slight changes from our 2021 strategic plan. And when you think about municipalities, I mean, the strategies are usually pretty similar. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes to it, and if there are changes from the common council, it won't have a huge impact on what we've done already with Resource X.
Okay, and then when you start getting down to program costing, you talked about understanding each process. That's a huge job. How far are we into that? And can we produce any data right now based on the work that you've done?
Joe, I can field at least part of that question. So I think we are at the stage right now with that program inventory, the program costs, those first evaluations where between Joe and staff, it is an appropriate stage of the effort for some internal quality control before that data is then made available. Joe, we can get into timeline talk and some of those expectations as well. The program process analysis that you mentioned is something that we have the ability to run the program data that you've already produced now through an analytic process that breaks down each of your programs. I used inspections because it's easy to imagine into its requisite key components or business processes overall. While that first draft has been completed, we then work to have staff input to say, this is how a normal inspections process looks, step by step. Are there any key components that the city does differently compared to other jurisdictions? Any fine tuning of that process data to look for that overlap overall. So that was in the coming soon component of the analysis that we start with the insights because they're usually the biggest bang for your buck, where you have some cost savings and revenue generating ideas, but then that process efficiency is coming up very quickly as a next step.
Is it going to affect our budget process in any way for this year?
Not for this year, no. So right now, what we have in Resource X is our 2025 budget. We don't have the 2026 proposed budget in there, so it's hard to use the insights for that budget process. But what we're hoping for next year is to get the 2026 budget in Resource X as soon as possible. That way, maybe we could show some data and insights early in the year on just the budget overall and some transparency and ease of understanding for the council and the public. And then from there, I think what we'll do is the departments will look at the insights and we'll pick 1 to 5 insight per department and try to use that for developing the 2027 budget. The one hang up we've had, and we're working, and hopefully because Resource X is with Tyler Munis now, is we put all the data into Resource X. We have to find an easy way to get it into Tyler Munis that creates the budget. So we're trying to get the 2026 data into Resource X as soon as possible next year so we can get into Tyler Munis early on to help build the budget, if that makes sense.
Okay, and then is it because of a company merger or something?
Yeah, they did merge with Tyler Munis. So we're hopeful that the transfer of data from Resource X to Tyler Munis will be more streamlined or easier as the years come, but we're not at that point yet, I believe, and they could answer for that. But.
Okay, so is kind of the intent to the software to maybe disrupt preconceived notions of how our hierarchy is established and allow us the opportunity to maybe realign resources in a more efficient manner?
Amen. Short answer, yes. And I like your framing, your portrayal. That's what the entire Rethinking Budgeting initiative is all about, is not taking anything for granted, but allowing fresh eyes, your eyes, with data to now say, okay, all right, we've always provided this program, it aligns with resources, we provide it because of why it's mandated, it serves the majority of the public, has cost recovery, but ideally, it's always on the table to thoughtfully question, do we have a partnership that we could leverage here? Is there a creative revenue source? What if we reallocated resources? The way that you said it is disruption. We hope that it's a welcomed, easier approach to always understanding where your resources are being allocated so you can thoughtfully question, reallocate, and generate new revenue.
And let me poke at that a little further, maybe with some tangible examples, because I want to understand if this is something that your software is intended to do. So if you were to, if as policymakers were to ask questions, why does every department have their own accountant versus having that centralized? Why do we have, I don't know, 6 different garages with each
Yes.
department? Or, is there a more efficient way to handle customer service that maybe includes services from these 3 different departments, but we're going to now consolidate it into this area? Is that the kind of thing that you're doing?
That is 100% the intent, and the design is exactly what you're describing. Right before this call with another client, as we did that process analysis across another city government, you notice things like duplication of procurement processes and purchasing and vendor management. Just as an illustrative example, it doesn't mean it's immediately wrong to do it, but it's at least putting it out there. We now have the data to see this is where we have multiple garages, this is where we have multiple accounting functions or IT support. Is this level of decentralization how we want it in Green Bay? Or do we have the opportunity to really consider centralization or some process efficiency or a department collaboration that would streamline, give you better results and impact while optimizing resources overall? That is 100% the design.
Would it also create a better alignment around revenue versus expense? And again, just to pull a tangible example, dog licenses, right? We
Sure.
think, what do we charge, $10 now? But my gut's telling me our actual cost of human capital to deploy that program is substantially higher. So would it give us a better view into what actual costs are to manage a program?
Yes, and in your specific example, so now you'll have the full cost of providing dog licenses, you'll have the revenue recovery, your intended rates, and the actual recovery in the case that dog licenses are sometimes hard to comply with or collect in total. So as you start to then look at every single program in your funding model, the question becomes, this is how much we are backfilling or subsidizing this particular program with general fund or reallocatable general government resources. Is this the best and most wise use of that scarce reallocatable pot of money? Or how are other communities doing this? They're not the only organization to have dog license revenue model. What other ways are you thoughtfully bringing in new revenue? How does that program score, and is it a program that is in your top priority? Should you be looking at potential partners in your community who can help offload some of the costs? And can we follow a blueprint or a case study from others who have been able to pull this off and leverage the best of program by program innovation?
So does your software, I guess, illustrate maybe the differences between what I would call discretionary spending versus what might be mandated by state law or some other jurisdiction?
100%. So the reason that we, in part of Jesse's presentation, every program you have, Jesse used the word tag. We tagged each program with degree of mandate. So is it required by a higher level of government, federal, state? Is it not required by a higher level of government, but is it something more self-imposed? So your own ordinances, policies, resolutions that you've adopted, self-imposed mandates, or is it none of the above, but it's industry best practice or not mandated whatsoever? We can now filter on exactly that quality of programs that you're providing and then get to that business model to ask pertinent questions like, what programs do we have that are not mandated by a higher level of government, have less to do with our City of Green Bay strategies, are not paying for themselves with program revenue, and now we have discretionary resources going towards these programs? We should have that on the table and be able to question that. That's exactly what we're able to do.
Okay, and then I just have one final question. What does your average client profile look like? What size budget or municipality are you typically working with? Because what I want to try to get a sense of is how much value can a city our size realize or extract from this software?
Yeah, so on average, let me hit the value part first, and then I'll get to client profile, because it has been pretty interesting. By way of implementing priority-based budgeting, getting to your insights, which represent a large portion of potential savings and new revenue, filtering that down to what is most actionable and practical that you should be able to expect. Implementers of priority-based budgeting readily achieve, on average, 10% of their operating budget, that which has gone through the priority-based budgeting process, on the table for opportunities for reallocation and new revenue generation. Now, the timetable to fulfill and enjoy that type of resource optimization has varied. Some organizations have achieved that much and more in their very first year of implementation. Others have not had a level of urgency to implement these innovations immediately and have spread out that sort of fulfillment of reallocation and new revenue generation over 2 years, maybe into a third year. So that timetable will be a partnership. When do you need those resources by? Now, the clientele, the spectrum has been very interesting. We work with Los Angeles County, California, for example, which is second only to New York City as far as the size of local government. We have very large local government jurisdictions, all the way to very small. Even in Wisconsin, from, Jefferson County, Washington County. Jesse, you have a couple of others who started, Dane County, a few others this year, down to Liberty Lake, Washington, and in between. I'd say on average, most population size and budget sizes look a heck of a lot more like the city of Green Bay, because there are only so many of the large jurisdictions. But that's a little bit of spectrum of those who have gone through this work.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I just have one last question. Diana, where are you guys at with this? You have been pretty quiet, because this would change the entire way you guys do your job, wouldn't it?
No, it would not change it, it's just an add-on on top of what we would be doing.
Okay,
So, yeah, we've been definitely part of the, all the departments are putting the information in, but then we are also part of the scoring and looking at the information and implementation. So, it's really another layer, unless we can do, as we maybe have it sometime when the systems talk to each other better, they might be able to load some of that information, but really to get a budget, you're still gonna have to put it in by line item. The programs are just gonna give you some information how to change your line items. I don't know, Chris or Jesse, if you wanted to add anything to that?
I liked, Diane, thanks for mentioning that, and Joe, part of the entire impetus for us joining Tyler Technologies, Tyler is your ERP company and budget development, and ResourceX is the budget intelligence layer, if you will, for rethinking the budget and rethinking how you are investing those resources and having that perspective. The vision together, Tyler with ResourceX, is that integrated full budgeting ecosystem. So that is very much exactly what we are building together with Tyler right now, so that your ERP data and your budget decision-making, decision support system with ResourceX are integrated. So that's our product roadmap, and we can definitely keep you all posted on exactly all the next steps for the end of this year, as well as first quarter, second quarter next year, so you're up to date on all that we're developing, because there's a lot going on, including the AI and machine learning analytics, as Jesse was mentioning. So it's the ERP and budget ecosystem, and the intelligence, analytics, and decision-making insights right in front of you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It's been a great, tremendous partnership with the city. Jesse, I'll turn it over to you, but just wanted to say thanks to you, your leadership and staff for all the time that you put into it. Sometimes the data development is the biggest piece to then unleash all of the opportunities ahead. So I think with insights and all that follows, we're just getting to the biggest, most exciting parts of the value proposition. But Jesse, I'd leave it to you for any concluding remarks.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Joe, Diana, Linda, appreciate all your efforts and helping the staff get through this data development process. So, everyone has been, it's been great, very receptive, attending all the trainings and just being really engaged in the process. And so we're really excited for this next phase of now that we've developed this baseline data, whether we're using 25 or 26 to help develop 27. The baseline data is in our system now, and so we're really looking forward to how do we utilize that and how do we look at our budget and make those decisions going forward. So thanks to the staff, and just want to give them all the kudos for this. So appreciate working with Green Bay. It's been really fun and really looking forward to seeing what comes out of this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Do we ever see this about information or just go on?
I think it was just informational tonight.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then on to number 2, consideration with possible action to approve a contract for parking lot snow plowing and hauling services to the lowest responsible bidder, Turf Pro LLC, as an on-needed basis for 2026, 2028, sorry.
I felt like they were gunning for your position there.
Really?
But they were talking about procurement.
Yeah.
As we're on the procurement item. No, I'm fine with it. It's, boy, what an interesting range of prices.
Mm-hmm.
But the final one looked good, so I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 3, consideration with possible action on approval of the claims committee reports. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Number 4, consideration with possible action regarding a 2025 budget amendment, resolution for unbudgeted overtime for special events. Any questions? Entertain motion.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Is that a second by Alder Gavin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I know you were sneezing. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Informational, 2025 contingency amount, $25,000. Next meeting is November 4th, 2025. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, we are adjourned.
When we got the notifications for meetings, I have